and welcome back to the Enclave. So we are here again with the next episode of the Handgun Theory. I might be vaping a little bit during this episode, I do apologize. It is currently 4:27, I don't know if y'all will be able to see that. In the morning, I've been awake since 2 and decided at 4 o'clock I would start recording some more videos for you guys. So let's move on to module 4. This is going to be a big one. Fundamentals of shooting. Yes sir. So fundamentals of shooting. We basically have in total 7 fundamentals of shooting. Stance, grip, breathing, trigger squeeze, sight picture, sight alignment, and follow through. You will notice I didn't look at the book for that because I memorized that for my first test because I thought I'd need to know it. You don't necessarily need to know all 7 off by heart, but you should. You should understand what to do in the scenario because it is shooting. So let's go into it. Number 1, stance. I did look at the book because I just want to keep in order. So you will get to this page where at the bottom there you see the isosceles stance demonstrated. Okay, it is very difficult for me to demonstrate an isosceles stance in this very small corner here. I did actually try and do it in my other video, and yeah, pretty much all people could see was my torso, so it didn't actually help anything anyway. But essentially for the isosceles stance, you want to stand with your feet about a shoulder length apart, potentially a little more, potentially a little less. It does depend on where you feel comfortable, because what I've come to notice is as much as you will try and get into a, let's say, slightly wider than your shoulder length apart, when it comes to walking up and drawing and firing, when you put the firearm down and you look down at your feet, they will always be where they're more comfortable. The thing with stances is you want to be stable. If you're just standing in a booth in an indoor shooting range, be comfortable. But obviously training, you want to train how you intend to use your tools. So always try and have as stable a stance as possible. So if it's uncomfortable for you to have your feet wider than your shoulders for an extended period of time, bring them a little closer together. It doesn't necessarily need to be this wide, like a spread eagle stance. But you do need to be stable. So as long as no one's going to be able to push you over from the left or right with a little nudge, you should be good. That is pretty much that for the isosceles stance. Each of these stances in the book, they have advantages for. The only one you will find in your test is the prone. So they will in essence ask you what are advantages, or list 2 advantages to the prone position. Basically, that is as simple as stating you are a smaller target to the enemy and you have better accuracy for long range shooting. Simple, done, that's your 2 marks, perfect. Next up we have our Weaver stance. As you can see, the advantage to that is that it is preferable for cover. So it is a lot more difficult to stand front on like this in the isosceles stance when behind cover. But yeah, the weaver stance is pretty simple. If you're standing in the isosceles stance, you basically just take one step back with your right or left foot, depending on which side you shoot from. If you're shooting from the right or if you're shooting from the left, that's going to be on you. But yeah, pretty much take one step back with your dominant leg, and that is pretty much a weaver stance that will tilt your body slightly to the left or to the right. And yeah, pretty simple. That will also be shown to you by your instructors. So kneeling position, not a big deal. You're absolutely not going to need that. The one thing that I will say you should note is this little illustration over here. So this is on the bottom of page 30, and that is important information to know. Good thing about kneeling in crowded places is that if that person were to miss, the bullet would continue on an upwards trajectory, and the odds of it hitting anyone else are quite slim. So just something to remember for life more than anything else. And then yeah, we get onto the prone position here. So look into the prone position, definitely read into that, know the pros and cons. So I've already listed the two pros. The con is going to be that once you're in a prone position, it is very difficult to get out of it. So if you're kneeling, if you're in the kneeling position, you can very easily get to the prone position and to the standing position. If you're in the standing position, you can very easily get into the prone position or the kneeling position. But when you're in the prone position, it's going to take a lot more energy and a lot more effort, and could be a lot more dangerous depending on the situation, to get from the prone position to the kneeling or the standing position again. So you only really want to use that when you need to. Sort of last resort situations there. So now we get on to a fun part that took a little bit of time in my explanation that I went over with the 30-minute thing that never got published. Yeah, so grip. It is quite simple to grip a gun. At the same time, it takes a lot of time to get used to gripping a firearm the same way every single time you pick it up. Also, the different ways in which you grip your gun can affect your accuracy, can affect your aim, all sorts of things like that. So I would say that grip is actually one of the most important things when it comes to shooting accurately. So simply, to start off, we want the tang that we described in our parts the last time to fit snugly into the V of your thumb and index finger here. You don't want it too high, because if it rides above the tang and the slide rides back, it can actually hit your hand and cause something called slide bite. Not a fun thing to have. So you want to keep the V of your thumb and index finger below the tang, pressed firmly, not too firmly, firmly into the tang, and index finger away from the trigger. You can be high, you can be low. I like to sit generally on the join. If I can feel that join between the slide and the frame, I know my finger's in the right place and it's not going to go pew pew. So that is your first hand. 3 fingers on the grip. Obviously, if you have a subcompact or something like that, you might only be able to have 2 fingers on the thing. I don't really recommend that. If your hand is so big that it doesn't fit on your grip, buy a bigger gun. But anyway, so we then have our 3 fingers there. Don't worry about this thumb right now, he gonna do his thing in a moment. So we then take our secondary hand, and what I recommend is a weird funky thumbs up thing. So 90 degrees, and you then bring that around and tuck them in to your knuckles. So your knuckles will actually create their own little grooves. In there, like so, perfect. Okay, palm of the hand in the empty space here. So you want palm of your hand in there, fingers wrapped around, and then this thumb on your left hand. Whew, what a difference this thumb can make. So I've got some targets. I actually don't know where they are right now, and I can show you that big of a difference just by adjusting this thumb. So we're going to go back, palm in the gap, fingers wrapped around, and you want this thumb as far forward as you can possibly get it. Then when you extend out this elbow here, you want to almost twist it. So you want to, I'm trying to get it so I can show you this. So you want to drive this hand into the slide. And wow, what a difference that makes. So I've shot a lot, and the last time I went, the range instructor there said to me, just twist your elbow in and drive that thumb into the slide. And oh my word, my accuracy increased instantaneously, just like a bam, like. So that is it. That is a good grip. That is pretty much all you're going to need to know for grip, and that is actually just for the practical. It's not really going to be in your test too much. So moving on to trigger squeeze. You will see there are images there that you can reference if I do not manage to show you this correctly. So we have a trigger, we have a hand, we have a finger. Okay. We have a trigger, we have a hand, we have a finger. So as you can see, that is what you're looking for. You want the center of your pad, this front pad, to be pretty much on the center of the trigger. So you will have a slight overlap on this side, but your finger will not be all the way through. You can see that is not right, and it's not sitting on this side. So you want it to be nicely through, just like that. And then smooth trigger squeeze to the break. Easy peasy. Trigger squeeze is something that will take a while to get perfect. I've seen many a person with decades of shooting experience, they'll get 5 shots, like perfect, 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 and the 6th one will just boing, and like, oh no, I jerked the trigger or whatever, and it happens. Like it's you'll have to practice your trigger squeeze over time. So, breathing. Easy peasy, whoop-de-doo. Yeah, so don't hold your breath. Like, that's pretty self-explanatory. And then, yeah, so you're breathing. Basically want to take a deep breath in. Okay, let me shift back a little again. So you want to take a breath in, click. So about halfway through your breath, the trigger should break. Yeah, there's different schools of thought on that. That is what the book's gonna tell you. That's what I try and do. But I will be honest, I have heard a few different schools of thought from different people on how your breathing should be done, especially when it comes to long guns and things like that. Things change a little bit, but pretty much easy peasy. You absolutely need to know what a dominant eye is. So they might ask you a question such as, what do we call the eye that looks at direct line of sight? And that is obviously the dominant eye. So your answer would be the dominant eye for 1 mark. Pretty simple. But just make sure you understand the eyes and how your dominant eye works. Sight alignment. Okay. Just making sure where this starts and where this ends. So sight alignment, you want to know how to draw that. You want to be able to draw something that looks like that. It doesn't need to be perfect, it doesn't need to be level, the things don't need to be center. You just need to be able to say equal space, level on the top, easy peasy. So that is pretty much that. Yeah, sight alignment is pretty self-explanatory. Like, I'm not really going to be able to show you anything that isn't shown here, sitting here. If we were in a range, I could maybe point some things out practically, but right now there's not much I can show you that isn't in the book here. So next up, side picture. That image that you see there of the eye, dotted line, rear sight, front sight, dotted line, and the target, you want to be able to draw a really pathetic version of that. And cool. So you basically want to have your eyeball, sight, target, and then just draw a dotted line that meets all of them. Mine didn't even line up, but I sort of showed the line. You get the point. We're not Picasso. So yeah, you want to be able to draw those two things in some form of rudimentary fashion. If you want to practice, feel free. And then yeah, finally we get to follow through. It gets a whole page in the book, and I'm not really gonna say that much about it, to be honest. I am going to say yeah, the major things you want to know here are the top paragraph. So follow through means that you will continue to do for 2 or 3 seconds everything that you did before the gun fired. So the former 6 fundamentals of shooting. Okay, so once you've completed all those things and you've gotten to the trigger pull, the gun will fire, the bullet will go off. You will then follow through. You will continue to do all those things, except for the trigger pull, obviously, for 2 to 3 seconds after you've pulled the trigger. Target identification is 2 paragraphs down. That one over there. Absolutely want to know that. You want to know why we need to identify targets. And why is that? Once you fire a bullet, you are responsible for it. If it were to hit and go through your target, or it were to miss your target, either to the left, right, front, back, whatever, and go off in a direction, you're responsible for the direction that bullet takes. So you absolutely need to know the importance of target identification. Know your target and what is beyond it. Very important. So the importance of target identification is the fact that you're responsible for your bullets. Simple. yeah. So that is pretty much that. Was a little bit of a longer one, I think. Yeah, 20 minutes. But at the end of the day, we got through it. So yeah, as always, if you have any questions or anything to add, if you feel like I missed anything, please feel free to comment down below. As always, please like, comment, share and subscribe. That really does help the channel grow. We are slowly but surely growing. I am excited. We are at 273 subscribers right now, I think. So that's pretty cool. We are slowly but surely growing. And yeah, so if you still have time, please feel free to check out some new videos here at the end. And yeah, as always, peace out.